Alrighty, well, welcome everyone. Welcome Seth Besse here to On with Sean. I actually said it right this time. We need to get that. We need to get that clip in the beginning.
Yeah, we got to reach out to Alex for our audio blurb. We need perfected.
I mean, it's his saying in the first place. In the second one we did, he came up with the saying.
We were racking our brains for like 2 hours trying to think of names.
Trying to think of something clever or cute or whatever, and he's like, Googling everything. On with Sean. Or he said NWI, On with Sean. I'm just like, dude, your voice is just perfect. Man.
That is perfect.
But yeah, so today we have Seth Besse. So he's owner of VersaFit in, I would say, Northwest Indiana, but I mean, specifically right now in St. John. Right?
Yeah, right now in St. John.
For sure. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, first, welcome on, but tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, 100%.
So I've been a personal trainer for 5 years. I've been a certified trainer, and I've been in the NWI, Northwest Indiana. I lived in Illinois. I was born in Illinois, but I've lived in this area my whole life.
Awesome.
And I just started training people 5 years ago, like I said, and I was kind of in and out of it for a while, but I've been consistently training at the location that I'm at now for about 2.5, 3 years almost. Yeah. And that's what I do. I love it. I love to help people get healthier and live happier lives. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we'll start with questions. This is the format that we've done for the last couple, and I'd love to continue to do that, is really dive into one small business, but more than anything, like specifically, and I would say almost intimately, but intricately into your small business, right? So, because that's what it is. People are like, oh, what's personal training, blah, blah, blah. No, it is a business, whether you look at it or not. You're self-employed, but more than anything, like you actually have a physical location. It's not just online. Maybe eventually that's something that will be part of it, as how many things are online now. But so I'll just jump into some questions here. Would you rather sell something to knowledgeable and informed individuals, or educate and elevate uninformed and ignorant consumers?
First of all, that is an amazing question, right? That was the wordiness, right? That was an amazing question, because I've never thought about that in my own business, and really because the thing is that I've been educating myself for 5 years on this subject. So I know a lot of stuff that could be, it feels like you're drinking from a fire hose your first session with me sometimes, because there's just so much information to be able to get through. If you are an educated individual and you already kind of have a really good base of health, I'll be able to help you here and there. Yeah. But for the people who are uneducated and uninformed, those people, when they come in with their first session with me, I had a new client come in last night, and it's rare that I'm taking on new people anymore because my schedule is so full. Yeah. In person anyway, but I had a new lady come in last night, and by the end of the session, she was literally like hyped. She went to shake my hand and she was shaking. She was like, thank you. She was like, this was amazing. This is like such great information. So to answer your question, I love teaching people who have never really learned much about the fitness sphere, like the basics, and getting them into shifting their perspective on how to live a healthier lifestyle, basically.
That's good.
And don't get me wrong, I love working with athletes. I love working with, people who have been in it their whole lives, and people who already have an understanding and a base knowledge of it. But there's something about teaching someone something new that they've never heard of, never learned before, and seeing that like spark in their eyes.
Yeah, you get to watch their brain get rewired. Right. Something that they didn't even know was possible.
Yeah, that there. And I was kind of talking to you about that before, like that look in someone's eyes when like you see their perspective shift and you see them get hyped about something.
That light comes on.
Yes, like that's what I live for in my business.
No, I love that, man. And that's the thing, like, I think that's the importance of connection, period, right? That's important with these relationships, regardless of it. It's just like, we can have that. You can, like, someone can give you fact, but we don't learn that way. We learn by experience. We learn by doing. We learn by action. Right. And I love that, where it's just like, some of the greatest moments in your life was when that light came on. You're just like, let's run with it, right? Yeah. And that, I guess, there's a bunch of other questions here, but it's just like that kind of leads into. And would you say this would lead into some of your passions? And is this a good way to make money off of that, right? Like, because I don't mean that like in a bad way, because some people will be like, it's almost like you're whoring yourself out to your passions or anything like that. But the reality is like, is this a passion, watching people grow this way in fitness, and are you making money off that? And is that okay to you, or do you think that's a good thing?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this. I've only been a trainer for 5 years, but I've been fit and healthy and living that healthy lifestyle literally my entire life. I mean, I grew up, my dad ran marathons. He did like long distance endurance training on his bike and stuff like that. My mom was really into healthy eating. For sure. So I kind of grew up in that space where this was cultivating what I think I was purposed to do for my entire life. And that being said, that being a passion of mine, like of course the fitness and the health and everything, this is of course all a passion of mine, and that's why I chose to do it for work. And I think ultimately when you can make that, and I was thinking about this when you sent that over, like when you can make what you're passionate about something that you can monetize, you are able to help so many more people with it.
Absolutely. No,
and it's just like with big business. Like if I am able to grow a multi-million dollar personal training industry, I'm helping people. I'm making revenue from it, and I could be a non-for-profit or whatever, but like I'm helping people at the end of the day. And the more I grow, the more people I help. So if you can find something that you're passionate about, you're going to not have to wake up and feel like, oh, I got to go to work today. It's like you're hyped to do it. You know? And then you're
and why not get paid for it, right? While you're doing it. Like, there should be a result and a reward that comes with it as well.
Absolutely. So. I don't believe that. I don't really believe in true altruism and just doing everything for others. Like, you know, there's a bit of selfishness to it in terms of the fact that I need to make a living for my family.
Absolutely.
You know? And if I can do it in a way that I love to wake up in the morning, I'm servicing the people that I'm helping to a greater extent because I want to be there. You know?
And at the end of the day too, like you have to realize that you can't pull from a depleted reservoir. I know we've talked about this so many times, me and Nick, but it's just like if you don't really focus on yourself first, there's no help that you can give to anyone. And people realize that it's like, man, like why is there so much toxicity in my life? It's like, dude, because you've been depleted for months or you're burnt out and you're trying to help other people, but you haven't focused on numero uno, right? Like, and I think that's just really what it kind of leads into. So even in our failures, like we can go from like, hey, this is a failure, and now how can I grow here? But usually we get into the point of where like, oh, that failure, like now we just we disintegrate and we dissolve, and we're just like, what happened here? And it's just like, so that leads into the next question of like, what are some failures or overlooks that you've witnessed, and even in there, if you had the chance to do it again, what would you do differently?
So when it comes to business and when it comes to life, really, and this is why I really wanted to touch on that too when we were talking about that, was that you had mentioned failures and overlooks throughout business, throughout life, and I was thinking about this, and I didn't really have a chance to really dive into to the thought and really complete the thinking process on it all. But
for sure.
To be honest with you, we fail every single day. Right?
You're right.
We fail, and I think when you have a perspective of, you know, I made a mistake, if you have the perspective that this mistake is going to beat me down and it's going to be, and you have this negative connotation with failure, then it's really, really hard to pick yourself back up again. But if you just think about it, and this is something that I think I've always kind of had a little bit, is that I make mistakes every single day. Like I made a mistake when I was driving in here. I pulled into the wrong parking lot. So, and it's goofy and it sounds stupid to say that. But you know, you guys talk about faith on here, right? So when you're talking about faith, all sins are equal in the eyes of God, right? So when I'm talking about mistakes, I make mistakes all day long, every single day. So if it's a catastrophic mistake where it's hurting others, then maybe it's something to really dig into and figure out what happened. But at the end of the day, we have missteps and we make mistakes all day long, every single day.
No, I appreciate that.
Like little things with my wife, I make mistakes with, and I'm not even aware of it. And for you to have that perspective of, you know, I'm going to screw up. I'm a sinful being.
And be patient with yourself. You're going to pull in the wrong parking lot, but it might be a bigger issue later in the day, but that same level of patience needs to be there.
Right, exactly.
Give yourself that grace.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's huge because at the end of the day, even if it is a colossal mistake, like not just pulling into a parking lot, let's say, you know, I don't know, you're committing tax fraud or something. It's like, that's a mistake. And you're either going to approach that mistake with a perspective of, okay, let's dig into this. Let's dig into this pile of crap that I've created in my life because I've made this many mistakes, and let's move past it. Or are you going to be so involved in it and so like narrow-minded about it that you're just focused on it and you're letting it consume you know?
So in Henry Cloud's book, I know I talk about him a lot, but his 9 things you simply must do, the first thing that he talks about of these 9 things is dig it up, right? Actually address it, face the reality, embrace it head on. And we have 2 choices, right? We can either embrace it, and it's going to destroy us, or we look at it as an opportunity to grow. And I love that because you're just like, we don't normalize it. When stuff happens like that, we're just like, oh my gosh, we shy back. And I think that's tough because we've made it taboo in our realities to be like, oh my gosh, we shouldn't look at failure. No, lean into it, not to like in like a self-deprivation type way where it's just like, oh, woe is me type deal, or like I'm the worst, like to beat yourself up. No, it's how can I use this opportunity to grow?
Right.
And it's that has got to be that shift. Otherwise, we're just going to stay in normality and mediocrity.
Right. So, and then there's also a level of like being able to laugh at your mistakes and just, because some things
that's a different level.
Some things you already know, I already know that, for instance, like I leave the bathroom kind of a mess for my wife, and I'm trying and I'm getting better at, but there's some goofy things that I do that she looks at and she's like, how did you not notice that? And you have to laugh at it, because if I beat myself up over that, because I'm trying and I'm making improvements here and there and I'm getting better at it, but then I screw up, if I don't have the ability to just like laugh and say, I'm sorry, I'll work on that, I'll recognize it, I'll move forward with it, but then laugh at your goofiness, because we're all goofy. We all, like I said, we're all sinful. We all make mistakes. So being able to laugh at that at least takes the pressure off of you a little bit to help recognize. Like,
and I think that reaffirms that it's also a daily thing, right? Like His mercies are new every day.
Right.
It's something that you're gonna have to forgive yourself every day on. It's something that all of us struggle with and understand too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love that. It's the manna every single day, man. Like, you have to pick it up. It's not for tomorrow. It's not for yesterday, right? You can't overflow from yesterday. You can't keep it at all. And I love that. Yeah. No, and then there's sparked so many other thoughts in my brain, but
I know.
which is so good though. But now I want to go to a different or at least a different question here. Is what is a time in your life that you missed out on something, and how did you respond to that?
Right. So I think about this, and not to dig into like my whole life story or anything like that, but
go for it, man. We've got time.
We're checking. We got time.
Yeah. I'm like, how much time do we have? So, so I grew up in an environment where, when I was going through my very formative years, I would say it was like early or late middle school through high school were like super formative for me in like my spirit, my personality and things like that.
Yeah.
And it was just, I always think about that time if I am thinking about the past. And I think the reason that I think about that time a lot is because my parents were going through a divorce at the time, and they were so consumed with what was going on in their lives and the tragedy that I was the last child in the family, so I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
And I never once showed my parents a single report card. They never once asked me how I was doing in school.
Wow.
My sophomore year, I lived with my buddy. I didn't live with either of my parents. I lived with my buddy and his parents for a whole year. And I mean, I maybe saw my parents once a month.
Yeah.
And like I said, they would, they never texted me, asked me what I was doing. They never said, hey, what time I didn't have a bedtime. I didn't have a curfew. I had none of that.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy just how close that hits the home. Like, cause I don't think I would have never guessed that about yourself. And I think just the level of awareness that we don't know what people are going through. That's huge.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. And that goes back to grace again, because you think about, I could look back at that time in my life and be bitter and be upset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, what that time actually did to me, and not having any accountability as a kid that was going through high school, drinking with buddies and like doing stupid stuff. I went through that time, and I could look back at that and victim blame and be a victim and blame everybody else and blame my parents and my environment. Or I can take responsibility for it and learn what I can from it and move on, right? So the reason I even bring that up, and you said a time in your life that you missed out on, I honestly think, because I'm a pretty solid athlete, I think that if I would have had somebody that would have told me, hey, stick to this, work hard, and really stay on me, I think I could have done really great things in high school and eventually gone on and done something in college.
Yeah.
And I've never taken a college course in my life, because at that time, junior year, everyone's applying for colleges and they're asking me like, where are you going? What are you thinking about? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have any money, and my parents don't have any money, and I don't want debt. So I don't know what I'm going to do. And that was a very stressful time in my life where I felt like a loser, honestly, because all my friends are doing this. And in terms of missing out on something, I think it would be the fact that I had missed out on accountability in that time in my life. And because of that, he brings good out of every situation, right?
Absolutely.
And because of that time in my life, I think it shaped me to be the person that I am now. I'm only 23 years old, and it's not to, people far younger than me have done things far greater. But I own my own business. I've been in business for myself for 5 years. And the accountability that I lacked, I recognized.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't give credit, it's all credit to God and all credit to everybody around me that was able to cultivate that in me and show me a new perspective.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if there was something that I missed out on, it was early developmental and formative years accountability that I really needed. And I think that I might be at a different level, but you could live in what if all day long.
True.
If you want to.
But what a good answer. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you.
That is, because man, like one that hits my heart on the other side. I'm not going to touch that. I know, like I don't want to like reach across the stupid microphone.
Hit your microphone.
Crazy thing over here and punch it. But it hits my heart because one, I think everyone can relate to that story to whatever degree, because even if you have the best parents on the planet, sometimes just our brains aren't developed or we don't receive things because we were either stubborn or rebellious or whatever. But that hits me significantly because it was just like, I started smoking when I was like 14, 15, started drinking, started doing all this stuff, and I'm just like, and I realized that it not even just stunted my growth, but it was like a portion of my brain was shut off for like a decade. And I was like, I didn't want certain things because other people were doing that. I thought like maybe like because I was super talented, soccer, all this other stuff. I thought that it's like that. I wish I could have done this better. I wish I would have done that. But fast forward to now, it really is just giving me a appropriate structure and a weight to responsibility and what that accountability looks like in my life. Now I desire it. So now it's like when all the negative stuff that was in my life and I pushed this away because I was supposed to deal, my parents wanted me to, be more responsible or have a different job or blah, 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 or this other stuff. It was like, I didn't appreciate the weight of that, and I didn't appreciate the weight of the accountability and what they were trying to pull me up towards versus I wanted to just stay down and not have that responsibility when I was younger, right? It was those tough decisions that I didn't want. And this, I wish I would like just kick myself, in the butt. I was like, I wish I'd pull myself to a higher level when I was younger, but I just, I didn't have the structure. I didn't have the culture or the connections or the atmosphere around me. And I think that the fact that you even noticed that, man, you know how few people
the fact
even
that
talk about that
switch is able to flip for you. I mean, I think you talk of even a lot of our friends that might get together now, like the high school years with the glory years. Like I think most kids that if they would have that story, that year of their life would have been the best because they got to do whatever they wanted. So the awareness and you wanting to go back and change that. And I did not know you were 23. I think I would have guessed you were way older. Like out of like
all the time. I feel like, dude, it's like I just think you're my age. I'm like, dude, you're 7 years younger. It's just like it's just crazy. I'm just
what's funny too is like just one more point to hit on before we move on from that is that we were just talking about how I just got married, right? And it's a big adjustment getting married and living with somebody.
Absolutely.
And
I don't know what that looks like. So.
And it's funny because I've been alone. Like I said, I've lived alone for a long time. I've done my own thing. I've kind of been my own man for such a long time. Even before I graduated high school, it was like 8th grade. I kind of just started doing my own thing. And nobody asked me where I was. Nobody asked me what I was doing. Nobody told me to do this way or that way. And I've done goofy stuff that I've had to learn from because of that, where I kind of taught myself certain things with even dumb stuff like cooking, doing the dishes, like daily tasks.
Is that all coming out now?
Yes.
Like, are you telling me that like you cook your pasta and apple juice because you saw a TikTok and she's like, babe, I don't know if I can do this. This is weird. And she's very Italian, so pasta is like a very specific thing.
If you don't do it, it's like sacrilegious.
So it's funny though because you come through this area of your life where you're like totally alone, totally relying on yourself, and then all of a sudden there's someone in your life that, and this is like another piece of self-awareness that I've had to learn with being with her, is that I've been on my own for so long and I've done my own thing for so long where I kind of get a little set in my ways and stubborn because I haven't had to be a part of something greater. So when I'm doing something, I need the self-awareness to say that if she criticizes me for the way that I do something, I need to not just say, well, this is the way that I've done it, just let me do it the way I'm doing it. Like, have an open mind. And it's the same thing with
I'm
business.
Convicted.
It's so far beyond his...
I'm single and I'm convicted right now. How is this happening?
But it's just so important that when you come to an impasse like that and someone brings up a criticism, because and I heard one of my mentors used to tell me this, all criticism holds its merit. And even if it's bad criticism that you feel like is mostly negative, you need to separate the wheat from the chaff and find it, right? Because all criticism holds some sort of merit. And if she's criticizing me and I feel like she's just attacking me, she's really trying to convey to me that I'm doing something that's less productive than it could be if I were to do it a different way. So I need to have the perspective that says, you're not your own man anymore. rely on others to teach you and keep learning.
Absolutely.
Because I got to a point where I had done things and I didn't have time to keep learning about stuff. So I just keep going and going and going. But it's like you set up these super fragile structures that now are being 100%. Torn down with marriage, and I need to have an open mind and let them come down so that I can rebuild something greater. Right. So
that's such a good point too, because here's the thing: what we always do is, especially for men, like I can look at any young man, any man, period, and the areas that they're isolating or not trying to grow in, I know for a fact that they're unhealthy. I've seen it so much in my own heart. And it's in those areas where it's just like, especially when we get resistance or someone says something, it's up to you to be offended, right?
Right.
So it's like when somebody comes at you or attacks you or something like that, I don't even say attacks you or gives you constructive criticism.
Right.
It is up to you. You have a decision. I'm going to take this poorly or I'm going to take this, like, oh, again, here's the perspective is, can I grow here, right? Versus like, why would I marry her and her intent is to harm me?
Right.
No, like that's not the point. Or most people that you have in your life. And this is why you have to be very adamant about who you have in your life is because it's all comes to intentions. Who are you going to align with? And I love that. Man, the fact that you even ask or even have that, attempt to have awareness that you have blind spots. Like that is, most people aren't doing that. It's so much, dude, our path of least resistance is I'm going to play the victim. The, oh, woe is me. Like this pity party, like rain on my day parade type crap. And it's just like the fact that you don't do that. Yeah. I was like, anything that you touch, I know is going to be successful because you have that self-awareness that's there.
And then, so question, like, I guess I'll throw one in, like, have you always been that way? So probably you being an athletic trainer probably gives you a different edge of being able to criticize people in a positive way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you being able to deploy that to people, are you always able to take that criticism the same way?
Yeah, it's difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not perfect. I get offended at certain things. My wife will say certain things to me, or even other people like will mention things about my business, and the first reaction is offense, right? Because you take it as it's insecurity, and it's like I'm not 100% sure about that, and the fact that you just knocked that in the face, and
that's the flesh side, right?
Yeah. It's like I'm going to respond with being offended, but it takes this, to draw that spirit out and say, okay, can I take this constructively? Is there anywhere that I can take this constructively? But it's super difficult when people will criticize me in that way. But I noticed, like you said, I have a good way of definitely approaching things in a positive standpoint. And I was always, before I graduated high school, I recognized that, I have two choices here. I'm either going to do what my parents did and go through all the mistakes they went through and follow that lineage. And, and it's sad to say, but the people in my life that have seen that as their example, some of them have followed that example.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I recognized that from a young age.
Generational habits, man. Like things that stick with us from our parents. And if we don't break that pattern, I mean, we're dooming our people that'll follow us.
Yeah. And now your kids, it's generational. That's obviously like, is the buck going to stop with you? So.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough, I think God gave me that recognition of it to say, like, you're not going to do that. You're not going to go down that path. So figure out how to get out of that. And I was reading books, How to Win Friends and Influence People was one of my number one books.
Right, or something like that? Or is it?
I'm blanking on his name. Dale Carnegie.
Okay.
Yeah. And he, that book is just incredible. And that was one of my number one books when I was graduating high school.
Yeah, for sure.
I started reading that, and that was a big thing about constructive criticism and being able to take criticism. So a lot of these things I learned, it wasn't just a realization one day. I'm like,
it sounds like it wasn't handed to you either. It sounds like you sought it out.
Right. Yeah. And, again, not to give glory to myself at all. I was determined to figure out a different way, but God gave it to me, and he gave me the people that were also on my crap.
No, I was thinking for the 18-year-old that might be listening, right? That might be trying to figure out, might be in the same spot.
Right.
Interesting relationship with his parents coming through high school.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a super important time in your life to really decide. You don't have to figure out exactly what you're going to do, but you got to know how you're going to do it. It's like, am I going to do this with integrity?
Yeah.
And that's what I always think is God is thinking about me. I think most of the time God doesn't really care what we do. He just cares how we do it. Are we going to do it with honesty and integrity and, aiming up, aiming for the cross, at all times, or are we going to do it thinking about ourselves?
And it seems like faith is a big piece of what you carry daily. Yeah. Was that always in your family? Is that something you sought out?
Yeah, so it was a part of my family, and we grew up with it. We grew up super strict Baptists, which is funny to say, to look back at the time and think about like the way that our family fell apart because we were so strict with religion. But I grew up with that structure, and I think that was the most important thing for me because I remember distinctively like not to get super personal, but like when my parents were going through like some of their hardest times and we were super unsure about the future, we were living in this beautiful home out in the country, and we had like 4 acres of property. We had, you know, beautiful home, big barn with, you know, my dad owned a business. So we had all of this structure and all of this like beauty around us, and it was coming down and nothing was sure. Like none of the future was sure. And I remember sitting down with my brother one day when things were like really hard, and we sat and we just prayed, because there was like, for us, it was like, that was what we went back to. Yeah. It was like when all things were falling apart, at least we knew that God was still the same, you know, and we can come back to him. And I remember like distinctly, I remember that night praying with him and just praying for our future and praying for, you know, our family and everything like that. And that's always been, you know, it's always been ingrained in me. And like I said, you know, I can't take credit for that. It's just something that I've been blessed with.
Oh, that's good. And I want to go a little bit back to where Nick was, and we can start getting the last couple of questions here. But Nick was talking about, you know, for the 18-year-old who doesn't know what he's doing or needs some help and stuff like that. If for those starting a business, right, similar to what you're doing or teetering on starting a business, what are maybe the first couple of steps that you would, you know, like exhort them to take?
You know, it kind of goes back to awareness a little bit, in that you need to be aware of your shortcomings. And this is something that I'm still learning being a business owner. That's
so good.
I'm horrible. I'm horrible at organization. I'm terrible at it. Same. I can't organize.
Same. I think all three of us,
that was the requirement to be on the podcast.
It was. Administration skills, zero.
Yeah, zero administration skills, right. So there's a certain level of self-awareness that you need, and the only way that you're ever going to gain that self-awareness is by trying. Yeah. Trying new things, trying the same thing over and over again, and figuring out, what am I good at, what am I bad at? Yeah. Where can I capitalize on my strengths and delegate my weaknesses? Because my weaknesses, at the end of the day, sometimes they can be improved upon. Yeah. But just being honest about myself, I'm terrible at organization. So if I don't pay somebody or delegate that off, I can try and I can learn and I may be able to do it, but it's going to take me 5 times as long as someone who's good at it.
And that's what's hard. Like, our parents grew up in a generation that had to be good at everything. So they needed to be good at the finances. They need to be able to fix the machine when it broke. They need to be able to do deliveries. So it sounds like what you're saying is understand what you're not good at. Don't be afraid to delegate that out probably early on if you can do it.
Yeah. And that'll help you so much to figure out what you are good at, because I feel like a lot of kids, like especially 18 years old, like thinking about myself at 18, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I knew what I didn't want in my life, but I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know what I was good at. I didn't know what I was bad at. So at the end of the day, the only answer is to get out there and try and figure it out. Because you know, like what you just said with our parents, they had to do everything, and that took so much time off their hands to do what they were good at. Because if our parents were to do only what they were good at, think about how much success you'd be able to experience in that. You know, and you put all that time, because I'm sure all of our parents were super hardworking people.
Well, they had to be. I mean, their parents came off the war. They had to survive. They saw their parents go without in so many different aspects.
100%.
Yeah, so definitely just being self-aware, being aware of who you are, being aware of your shortcomings, and then not being afraid to ask for help, not being afraid to delegate.
Just admit where you're at.
Right.
I like that. So that you did touch on one thing too, is like what you're good at and what you're bad at. So share us a little bit, if you want to, share with us a little bit of like some things you're good at and some things you're bad at. Give like practical examples, like things, because that's the hardest thing. It's just like, oh, it's kind of ambiguous, and you're like, oh, good and bad. It's like, well, give some personal things.
Right. So I think I'm very good in my relationships with people. I'm able to keep things still watered. You know, even if there's conflict there, I'm able to get into the situation with a calm spirit and bring that calming, you know, that presence to it that will be able to help us move on from whatever is going on.
So you're a peacekeeper generally.
Definitely.
Clarity and chaos. I like that.
Right. And I think I'm really, that's one of my big strengths. And because of that, I'm able to apply that to my business when people come to me with problems.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if people come to me and say, you know, I want this or that with my body, that's a problem. And I'm able to clear through all of the crap, and like, because people will come to me like, I tried keto, I tried this, I tried that, and it's like, you've tried so many different things, there's so much hectic you know, crap going on in your head right now. Let's bring it all back to center, find the base, and then move from there, instead of like being out there with everything. And I think conversations will get like that, relationships will get like that, where it's like, whoa, like you just blew up on me about, you know, I got some food on the backsplash. Like, what's actually going on here?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening right now? How can we figure out?
That's a symptom. Let's actually figure out, like,
exactly
what it's going to be.
So I think I'm really good at that. And I'm also a type A personality that, like, that what we talked about in the beginning, like, seeing that spark in someone's eye gets me super hyped. So naturally, I want people to get excited. I want people to get, when people come in and have a great workout, that gives me life.
Yeah.
So I'm really good at that kind of thing. And being a type A personality where, like, I am great at new ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
Horrible at following through with them.
Yeah.
So I have 8 different things that I'm working on right now, and each of them are about 25% done.
Yeah.
And the reason is because organization.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at sitting down, like,
systems.
Systems, right?
Yeah.
So my wife has helped me with that a lot because she's really good at organization. So we found that balance in that way.
It's weird how the Lord works that, right?
yeah, definitely.
It was the main thing he was looking for. You're organized, get at me.
Yeah. Seriously, but and it's been amazing for me because I feel like since I've been with her, you get that motivation that it's like, I'm a married man now. I'm gonna be, I'm gonna fight even harder than what I'm doing right now to do my best. But on top of that person can help you so much in the areas that you're lacking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, I'm really bad at organization. I'm really bad at, like, my systems and being able to set that up, but she's really good at it. So we hold each other accountable in that way, and it's really good for both of us, you know.
I love that, man. And again, usually, like, our greatest strength is, like, the unhealthy version is our greatest weakness, right? And it's just like, man, like, you can run after something, but it's just like, if you don't have the foundation stuff that builds, like, or that is underneath it, if you can't create the elevator, I forget whoever talked about it, but it was like a mom and pop trying to, like, scale a company. They're walking up the stairs, right? But it's like, when you try and literally get the correct teams and systems, it's like building an elevator. You're creating the foundation. Now you can go to the next level and the next level and the next level.
Right.
But the problem is, we're just like, let's go. Like, especially type A. We're just like, I'm just going to get things done because no one else is going to go. Right. And then you're just like, oh crap. Like,
it's kind of lonely out here.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's two sides of the same coin. Right. And we often don't see it that way. So I know we're actually getting close to the time here. But I'll do one more question. And what does your ideal workday look like?
Right now I'm getting close. I'm getting close to this ideal workday. I'm formulating putting a gym together for myself, so I'm going to own the location, everything like that. And my plan for the future is that get to work at 5 a.m. My 5 a.m. is all classes, Monday through Friday. So
wait, what time did you go to bed though? That's what
I go to bed at like 9.
Okay.
So it's not a perfect sleep schedule.
Too.
9 to 4. 9 to 4 is usually, but I'm out of the house and like that. Okay. So which is another funny thing I could touch on in systems, but we're running out of time. So 5 a.m. group classes from 7 to noon. I train people one-on-one, and then only go back twice a week where I do group classes at night. Other than that, my whole afternoon, which is kind of where I'm getting right now. Right now I work from 5 to noon, but then I have to go back in the evening just to make a little bit of extra money, train some more people. But ideally, most of my evenings will be open for me to be able to work on my computer, work on those systems, like you said, and working on business where I love training people. I'll probably always train people no matter how big my business ends up scaling to. But I love training in the morning. After afternoon, I like a little nap, a little 30-minute power nap, and then I'm back at it and I'm able to kind of work on my systems on my computer and whatnot.
I love it.
That's my ideal work day. I love this thing though. I'd do it for the rest of my life.
I love it, man. Well, that's what, find what you're passionate about, and then it's not like you're not working a day in your life. So, I know we're actually right about at time, but hey, Seth, thank you so much for coming out, man. Super appreciate it. Nick, always thanks for sitting in.
Sure.
Appreciate you guys. This was On with Sean, and I still don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but we will see you guys in the next episode. But like, subscribe, share, and appreciate comments and everything you guys have. So appreciate you and Seth with VersaFit here in Northwest Indiana. Appreciate you guys. Bye.
Thanks for having me, guys.